1,200 years after the Great Cataclysm, the Kana tribe lived in the heart of the Middle Valley. Their settlement lay in an ancient riverbed, surrounded by vast forests. The tribe revered the ancient caves, seeing them as both sacred and cursed. No one dared step inside them. Those who did were believed to be damned, cast out from the tribe forever. One night, the tribe gathered around a great fire in the center of their camp. The hunting season had been unkind, and their food stores were nearly gone. Just then a shadow emerged from the darkness. A stranger stepped forward, clad in worn yet impressive leather garments, a large satchel slung over his shoulder. "My name is Arin," he said, his voice steady and knowing. "I am a storyteller and a traveler. If you grant me the warmth of your fire, I will share with you a tale of ancient secrets." The tribe's leader, Morga, was cautious, but desperation gnawed at his people. If this traveler held any knowledge that could help them survive, he had no choice but to listen. As the fire crackled, Arin spoke of a place deep in the southern mountains, an ancient cave containing a crystal known as the Bloodstone. "This crystal holds sacred power," Arin explained. "With it, your tribe may endure the coming hardships, but entering the cave comes at a great cost." Morga knew the risk, but his people had little choice. He selected Kael, a young but fearless hunter, to retrieve the Bloodstone. Kael had been raised to fear the caves, to avoid them at all costs. But for his tribe, he was willing to defy that belief. Alongside him, he took Lia, a skilled tracker and healer, known for her deep knowledge of plants and the land. Their journey led them through jagged mountain passes and mist-laden forests. Strange eyes watched them from the shadows, though no figures could be seen. "We are being followed," Lia whispered. "The spirits of the cave's guardians." On the third day, they arrived at the entrance. Massive stone pillars surrounded. The cave's mouth covered in moss and carved with eerie symbols. "These are warnings," Lia murmured, tracing her fingers over the stone. "Whoever enters will lose their soul." Kael swallowed his fear and stepped inside. The air was thick with moisture, and a strange whispering sound echoed from deep within. It felt as if the cave itself was alive, murmuring secrets in an ancient tongue. Further in, they found scattered bones, most unmistakably human. Then in the cave's depths they saw it. The Bloodstone rested atop a raised platform, glowing with an eerie red light, pulsing like a heartbeat. An invisible force seemed to hum around it, pressing against their very souls. But as Kael reached for the crystal, the shadows stirred. From the darkness a figure emerged, human in form but with eyes as black as the void. The Guardian, without a word. It struck. A spear lashed out at Kael, forcing him back. Lia lunged, her knife flashing in the dim light, but the Guardian only seemed to grow stronger with each attack. Kael's mind raced. How could they defeat something that only became more powerful with every strike? Then his eyes fell upon the Bloodstone's carvings, ancient symbols, cryptic yet familiar. A realization struck him. The stone feeds on blood, he thought. Maybe that's the key. With no time to second-guess, Kael drew his hunting knife and sliced his palm, pressing his bleeding hand against the Bloodstone. The crystal drank his blood eagerly. A piercing scream echoed through the cave. As the Guardian trembled, its form distorting. Within moments it vanished into the void. But Kael's price was heavy. His arm from the elbow down had turned to stone. Weakened but victorious, they carried the Bloodstone back to the tribe. At first, it seemed to be a blessing. Their hunters grew stronger, their land more fertile. But soon the elders sensed something was wrong. An aged shaman, eyes clouded with wisdom and fear, warned Kael, "This crystal. It is merely a fragment of something far older, a remnant of a power that predates even the Great Cataclysm. If left unchecked, it may bring ruin upon us all." And the Bloodstone had begun to whisper. Kael could hear it, resonating within his petrified arm. A voice ancient and knowing called to him. It spoke of another cave far greater and more dangerous than the last. A choice lay before him. Lia, standing at his side, urged caution. "This stone has already saved our tribe. Why risk more? Maybe we should find a way to destroy it before it destroys us." Kael clenched his fist, feeling the stone pulse beneath his skin. But this stone led us here. Maybe where it wants to take us is where we were always meant to go. The fire crackled, the whispers grew louder. The journey was far from over. Kael felt a slight tingling sensation in his stone arm as he turned to Lia. The power of the stone helped our tribe, yes, but following its guidance might lead us into the unknown. For now, we should stay here and observe its effects. Lia nodded. You're right, but we need to figure out how to keep this stone under control. If it falls into the wrong hands, she trailed off, for Kael felt the same unease. They decided to hide the stone in the remnants of an old temple at the heart of the tribe's territory. The temple was said to have been connected to some kind of energy from the caves before the Great Ruin. However, once the stone was placed in the temple, a strange mist began to form around it. This mist spread beyond the tribe's boundaries, and hunters reported hearing voices within it, whispering from nowhere. One evening, Chief Morga approached Kael and said, "The peace this stone brought seems short-lived. The mist is growing and we're receiving reports of strange figures moving within it beyond our borders." Kael knew he had to make a decision. The stone's power was bringing danger along with it. Kael turned to Lia after a brief discussion with Chief Morga. "The mist is growing. This isn't natural. If these figures are a threat, we need to know what we're up against." Lia checked her blade and gave a faint smile. "If we're heading into the mist, we'd better be prepared. This won't be easy." Kael and Lia ventured toward the forest's edge, where the mist was thickest. The silence was deafening. There were no bird calls or sounds of nocturnal creatures. Kael felt a surge of energy in his stone arm, as if the stone was guiding them. Somewhere. After some time, they noticed silhouettes emerging within the mist. At first they seemed human, but as they got closer, Kael and Lia saw their eyes were completely black, and their skin was as hard as stone. One of the figures stepped forward, its movements heavy and deliberate. "Turn back," it said in a guttural voice. "These lands are not yours." Kael gripped his sword tightly. "Whatever threatens this tribe, we've come to face it. Tell us who or what you are." The figure ignored Kael's demand. Moments later, more figures emerged from the mist. 5 of them surrounded Kael and Lia as their leader continued. "The stone feeds on the blood of those who guard it. Leave now, before you cause further harm." Kael slowly lowered his sword and took a step forward. Lia, still on high alert, allowed him to take the lead. "We don't want to fight," Kael said, his voice firm yet calm. "Who are you, and why are you protecting this stone?" One of the figures tilted its head slightly. "We are the ancient guardians. We exist to keep the stone's power from falling into the wrong hands. You have disturbed its peace." Lia took a step closer to the figures and asked, "You see that this stone has helped our tribe, but if it's dangerous, tell us how to control it. We want to know what we should do with it." The leader of the figures remained silent for a moment. Then a faint glow appeared within the mist. A strange energy spread toward Kael's stone arm. The figure turned to Kael and said, "The stone is now a part of you. If you wish to control it, you must find its source, but doing so will require a great sacrifice." Kael frowned. "Where is this source?" The figure turned its gaze into the distance and spoke in a quiet tone. "Deep within the caves hidden before the great ruin lies a temple. There the stone's true nature will be revealed, but at the end of that path you may lose everything." Kael took a deep breath and locked eyes with the leader of the figures. "If this stone's power is truly tied to me, then I must learn to control it. I will go to the temple." Lia hesitated for a moment before turning to Kael. "You're not going alone. The path will be dangerous and I'm not letting you face it by yourself." The leader of the figures nodded in approval. "The path to the temple is long and filled with challenges, but only there will you understand how the stone controls you. Be prepared for loss along the way." Kael and Lia followed the direction the figures had pointed out, moving through the mist and into a deep forest. The forest was unlike any ordinary place. The branches of the trees twisted into unnatural shapes, their trunks etched with glowing ancient symbols. With every step, Kael's stone arm grew heavier, as if the stone itself could sense the temple. Eventually they came upon a deep chasm. On the other side was an ancient bridge, barely hanging by rotting ropes and decaying wooden planks. Lia turned to Kael, speaking cautiously. This bridge looks ancient. If we try to cross it right away, it might collapse. We should test its strength first. Kael nodded. You're right. Let's see if it can handle any weight. Lia approached the edge of the bridge and carefully inspected the ropes and planks. Many of the planks were rotting, but a few still appeared sturdy. She picked up a short branch she had carried and pressed it against a few of the planks, applying some weight. The rope strained slightly but didn't break. Some of the planks might hold, Lia said, but we need to be careful. Crossing one at a time is the safest option. Kael stepped closer, his heavy stone arm brushing against the first plank. He tapped it lightly, testing its strength. The plank seemed sturdy enough, but as they looked further down the bridge, they noticed a section in the middle where the wood had almost completely rotted. Kael took a deep breath. One of us should. Go ahead and check the path, I'll start. Kael looked at Lia and gave a faint smile. We're safer together. If the bridge can hold us, we'll find out slowly and carefully. Lia nodded. All right. Let's match our steps and move cautiously. If one of us slips, the other can help. The two moved to the edge of the bridge. Their first steps were tense. The rope strained slightly and the planks creaked under their weight. Lia adjusted her movements to balance the weight of Kael's stone arm. As they progressed, they approached the center of the bridge. Suddenly, one of the ropes snapped, causing the bridge to lurch to one side. Kael instinctively grabbed Lia's arm. Don't move, he commanded. Both of them clung tightly to the side ropes to maintain their balance. The bridge was still holding, but it was unclear how much more weight it could bear. Lia took a deep breath. The bridge is under too much tension. If another rope snaps, we'll fall. One of us needs to move ahead quickly to secure the path. Kael nodded. All right, you go. You're lighter. I'll keep the balance here. Kael saw the fear in Lia's eyes as she glanced toward the other side of the bridge. The energy from his stone arm was growing stronger. He turned to her with determination in his voice. You're lighter. If this bridge gives out, we'll both fall. I'm going to get you across. Lia stared at him in disbelief. You're going to throw me. Kael, that's insane. What if you miss? Kael gave a small grin. If this arm is good for anything, it's now. Are you ready? Lia hesitated, but then nodded, gripping tightly onto Kael's stone arm. Kael took a deep breath, gathering all his strength, and hurled Lia toward the sturdier end of the bridge. As she flew through the air, Kael's voice echoed behind her. Grab the rope. Lia managed to catch hold of a rope near the end of the bridge and landed safely on the other side. As Kael let out a sigh of relief, the bridge began to shake violently. The planks beneath him cracked loudly. He realized he had to move quickly before the entire bridge collapsed. Kael heard the planks beneath him cracking loudly as the bridge began to give way. Time was running out. Lia called to him from the safe side. Move, Kael, it's not going to hold. Kael gripped his stone arm tightly and took a deep breath. Energy surged through his arm, almost as if it was pushing him forward. He unleashed the power and used all his strength to make a massive leap. As he soared through the air, he saw the section of the bridge behind him collapse completely. Kael reached out with his stone arm as he descended, grabbing onto one of the sturdier planks. Near the safe side, Lia quickly rushed over to pull him up. Once Kael was safely across, he let out a deep breath. Lia smiled at him, laughing nervously. Are you always going to scare us like this? Kael gave a faint grin. Only when it's necessary. Kael and Lia pushed through the thick underbrush of the forest. The energy in Kael's stone arm was growing stronger, almost distracting him. Lia broke the silence. Something's wrong here. It feels like the stone is calling out to something. At that moment, a deep growl echoed from the forest. Emerging. From the shadows was a massive creature. Its skin was dark grey and appeared as hard as stone. Its eyes glowed red, resembling the color of the bloodstone. The creature paused briefly before letting out a thunderous roar and charging at Kael. Kael drew his sword, while Lia quickly readied her bow. The creature moved with incredible speed. Kael used his stone arm to block the creature's massive claws, but each blow sent him staggering backward. This thing is reacting to the stone's energy, Lia shouted as she loosed an arrow into the creature's leg.